and welcome to Storytime. Words are my friend today. Jacob and I are going to tell you a quick story. Take it away, Jacob.
Good morning, good morning. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about Ahab and Jezebel.
Ooh-hoo.
Great story. And we're going to be reading from 1 Kings chapter 16, verses 29-33. We're going to be summarizing it and then talking a little bit more about who Jezebel was and Ahab was. So that's going to be great fun. Okay. Shall I kick off first then?
Kick us off, Jacob.
Okay, here we go. Ahab, son of Amri, began to rule over Israel in the 38th year of King Asas. Interesting name.
We're having a bit of a technical issue, but we also might not be. We're just kidding.
Is it working? Working? Oh, okay.
Just gonna carry on.
Let us know in the comments if you can actually hear me. If not, then there we go. So Ahab reigned in Samaria for 22 years.
It's a long time. That's me. That's my age. That's how long he ruled. Woof.
That's a very long time, very old.
Yeah, so
But
old.
Ahab, son of Amri, did what was evil in the Lord's sight,
Oh boy.
even more than any other kings before him. Not a good. He
It's
made
not
some
great.
wrong choices.
Yeah. It's not good.
It's not good. So, and as though it were not enough to follow the sinful example of the other kings, he married Jezebel. Boo, the daughter of King Ethbaal of the Sidonians. Sidonians. If you can say it, let us know in the group chat. And he began to bow down in worship to Baal.
Baal.
First, Ahab built a temple and an altar for Baal in Samaria. Then he set up a Asherah pole. Over to you.
An Asherah pole.
Yeah.
Bit random, huh? Anyway, so Ahab married a Sidonian woman, as we've said, and she was not a Jewish woman. I know. She was not seen as one of God's people, which is a big deal. And God told his people that they should not marry women who do not worship the one true God.
Amen.
Big stuff. So the woman that Ahab married was named Jezebel.
Boo.
Boo. Boo. We don't like Jezebel right now. Jezebel had not been taught in her home to worship the one true God. But she had been taught to worship who? Baal. And he was her god. And Baal was a stone god that people worshipped. So it's not a great start when it's a stone god.
No.
And they offered their infant children as sacrifices.
What?
We're not a fan of that. Not sure about you guys. Not a fan. And so they offered infant children as sacrifices to the god. So Baal was not a good god. He was not a god, to be honest with you. And anyone who worshipped him was actually worshipping Satan.
Whoa.
And that's never good. So King Ahab, who never should have married Jezebel in the first place, brings her into his family and makes her his wife. And not only that, he also allowed her to bring her worship to Baal into the family. So she carried on worshipping this stone god while living with him. But since he didn't make a good first choice and married a woman who didn't love God, he also made a second bad choice and allowed her to worship Baal in their house. And that was a really bad thing. Tell us more, Jacob.
That is very strange. I mean, I keep hearing this word Jezebel, and I'm not liking this name.
No.
Every single time you say it, I get the heebie-jeebies. So let's see what happens when I talk a bit more. Hopefully I just don't run away.
Yeah.
Because I might do that. So Ahab did more to provoke the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel.
Oh boy, it's never good.
No. I mean, he just kept doing bad things, Beth. Again. And again, that's right. So Ahab was the last and the worst king of the Israelite kings who ruled during the reign of Asa in Judah. And Ahab did many bad things in the sight of God. And Jezebel, oh my word, if I say that one more time, I'm out of here. His wife made it worse as she encouraged him to do other bad things, like worship a different god called Baal.
Wow.
Ahab was a bad guy, and right, that's it. I've said Jezebel again. I'm going.
It's happening. Right, so Jacob's out, so it's just story time with Beth. I'll just finish off the sentence for you guys. Ahab was a bad guy. Jezebel made him even worse. So we are going to pass over to Sam, who's going to pad this story out a little bit for you. Are you there, Sam?
Hello, everyone.
Nice.
I'm back. I'm going to come sit on this camera here. Oh, guys, thanks for telling me about Ahab and the name that we shall no longer mention. No, Jezebel. That was the name. He's still got the heebie-jeebies behind the camera. And he was still quite a bad man already. We got told of a few things there. But then Jezebel came in and said she worshipped this god Baal. I'm not going to do the Baal. Oh, I did anyway. Silly me. I just got sucked into it. They did such a good job. And that he allowed her to do that. And that wasn't a good thing of an Israelite king in the place that was of God's people. He wasn't the most godly of men. He got told to do other things by his wife, and he was like, yeah, we're going to do those. I'm happy to do those things. But they weren't good. They weren't honoring to God. They weren't glorifying God. They were doing their own thing. Thankfully, that was a good point when they said he was the last of the bad Israelite kings. But what does that mean for us? Because we can see how Ahab obviously fell in love with Jezebel, but she made him worse than he already was. So he wasn't so good in the first place, but then he was made a little bit more worse because he maybe didn't stand up to the fact that maybe it was God they should have been worshipping, and that was the deal for the Israelite people, that they were God's people, that he is the God they should be worshipping, but they made it absolutely fine to be worshipping a God that isn't even real, wasn't even there, didn't even help them cross the Red Sea when they needed to do that years and years before. We gunged Emma, didn't we? And maybe that was quite fun to do and quite funny, but Emma's now gone off to clean herself up, and she is generally feeling quite cold. So I'm feeling a little bit bad that, one, the gunge didn't stay as warm, and that she's actually a little bit cold, because I do generally actually care for her, and I can say that when she's not in the room, because she then doesn't tell me off afterwards. She won't know I've actually been nice to her. But actually, it started when Rog said last week, if you remember, he did the hellos with Emma, and he grabbed the mic and he said, hey, we should gunge someone today. And I think it should be Emma. We should do something bad. We should do something naughty because that's good. I think he said those words. And then us as team, Joel and Jacob and Beth, we thought it would be quite funny if we could actually get that done. And we had Hannah and Mara in the comments say as well. But has Roger's actions and suggestion to do something, as I have a good relationship with him, but he's actually maybe do something, yes, quite fun and quite funny, but now I'm actually thinking maybe it was a bad thing to do because she's actually feeling really quite cold and might be a bit grumpy the rest of the day because she's cold. Because who likes to be cold? No, I'm getting thumbs up down behind me. I wasn't able to stand up and say, actually, guys, no, it's not right to gunge Emma this time round because it is cold in this room and the gunge won't stay warm and she's going to be cold and she's going to have to go clean up. And yeah, it was really funny though, wasn't it? But what's the point? Sometimes we can be around people that we might feel safe around, that we might love, that we might like. We might have friends. And they may not necessarily know Jesus. They might know Jesus too. But they might ask things of us or think, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. And we might be thinking, oh, that doesn't sound the right thing to do. I'm gonna skip church because actually Liverpool, the team I support, they've got the lunchtime kickoff. They don't this weekend. They won yesterday. They had the lunchtime kickoff, so I'm going to skip church and I'm going to go down to the pub with my friends and I'm going to watch that live there because they've asked me to do. And that might be a good thing to do because I'm being relational with friends and I might get to talk about Jesus there. But my main thing of going there is to watch Liverpool win and play the football game. Not the greatest things. It's taking me away from something that is probably so much better. I would say it's better. Because I can watch the highlights another time. There'll be another time, another game, and a better time where I could go and do that with friends. But you might have friends asking you to do other things. Maybe we should leave this person out of our game at school because they said something and it was a bit weird. Maybe we won't let them join in. And you're thinking, yeah, let's not have them join in. But part of you's like, well, no, I know it's a good thing to have people join in with me and let everyone join in and play our games because that's a kind and the right thing to do. Ahab and Jezebel didn't take very many opportunities to do a good thing and a right thing. There was a guy called Elijah during this time who went up against Ahab and Jezebel, but even there was one point where he got really scared. He did a really amazing thing. He proved that the God that we believe in, the God that we talk to you about every week and hope that you talk to every day, was the true and the living God. That's who he is. He proved it to the prophets of Baal. There was about 400 of them. And they did this whole experiment pretty much where they're like, right, let's make some altars. And Baal, you guys who follow Baal, you'll go first. And you've got to make your altar go on fire out of nothing because Baal's going to do it. So you just need to pray to him and praise and worship him, and that will happen. And they did it and nothing happened. And Elijah got a little bit cocky. He said, guys, I've made my altar, but could we get like 5 buckets of water? Could we pour it on my altar and make it really, really wet? Because making things wet's really good for fire, isn't it? No. It actually makes it really difficult. And then him against 400 people was stood there praising and worshiping his God. And what did God do? He set it alight. And then he did something that, he got rid of all those prophets, which I struggle with sometimes, but he got rid of them all. So they weren't worshipping Baal anymore. And then Jezebel sends a messenger to Elijah. So one lady sends a message to Elijah and says, hey, we're going to kill you. And we're probably going to do it by the end of the day. And Elijah has just done something amazing and seen that his God is brilliant, and he ran away. He got a bit scared. But God helped him out, and there were some amazing things that happened after that. And a really good point. So Elijah was trying to stand up and trying to follow God in all that he was doing, and not being led astray even by the king at the time, who everyone should have been listening to because he's the king. That's what you do. That's what you did in those times. It would have been bad news not to. But actually it got them in trouble. I might be in trouble because I listened to Rog and others about gunging Emma. She may not be too happy with me. I might have to say sorry and make sure that she's okay. You might have to say sorry to people you've left out of games because you thought it might have been an okay idea to leave them out because they look a bit different to us, or they said something a bit strange, or maybe they weren't so nice either, so you wanted to leave them out for that reason. But that still doesn't make it okay if we've got people that might be saying, this is a good idea, but in your heart, in your mind, you're thinking, no, God wouldn't be so pleased with any of that. Because actually, when we choose to follow God and think about God in all that we're doing, he can help us do the right things. He can help us be better. Because what did he do? He sent his son to come and be on earth. He became human. And what did he do? He grew up. He did some carpentry and some tecton's the word. He did a number of things. He did some great things. But then he chose his disciples. And we might be looking at that story a little bit down the line in the new year. And they hung out with him, and there were some people there that weren't so great. There was a tax collector called Matthew who people wouldn't have liked because he was a Jew, but he was collecting the taxes for the Romans, for Caesar, from his people, and he probably charged them more so he could make extra monies for himself. But Jesus still spoke to him, asked him to follow him, which he did, and hanging out with Jesus made him a better person because he was around Jesus the whole time, and that was better than being around the Romans and other people that may have encouraged him in himself to be doing the bad things. So bad company, we need to be careful who our friends are. Because sometimes they can trip us up. Sometimes they may lead us astray from doing the right thing. But if we're following God and wanting to hang out with him, he's going to help us remember what the right things to do are. He's going to give us the strength maybe to stand up and say, hey, no. Emma deserves to play in the game with us. Just because she smells because she got gunged doesn't mean she can't play in the game with us. She can come and play in the game. That's a scary thing to say sometimes to our friends. But let's not be like Jezebel and suggest things that aren't good to do. Let's not be like Ahab, who let those things happen and said, you're my wife, I love you, you can worship this Baal guy, that's fine by me, I'm the king, people will do what I say. Let's be a little bit like Elijah, who stood up and said, hey, Baal isn't the God you should be following. That's really silly and stupid. I don't agree with it. This is the God who you should be following right now. Let's prove it. Boom. Altar on fire. God did that. Changed their minds a little bit. So, bad company can corrupt us. But if we're going to follow God and we're going to try and hang out with God and have his company and follow people and have friends who are following God also, they can really help us do the right thing. To have people involved all the time, that we don't get tripped up and maybe do bad things. We're going to end that point there, I think. Otherwise, I'll just go around again. I think you've got it. So maybe we need to think about I'm not saying let's stop being friends with people, but maybe we need to think about sometimes what our friends might say, whether it's a good or a bad thing to do. And maybe we can ask God to have the strength to help them know what the right thing to do is, because then we can all help each other in doing the right thing. But hey, I thought Jacob and Beth did a great job at helping us learn a little bit about Ahab and Jezebel. Jacob seems to have calmed down about that name now. But we're going to end it there. We've had fun. We've been able to do a worship workout, get warmed up, do some actions where we've been able to worship Jesus with our actions. And do you know what? Actually, watching all that we've been doing, listening to the story, listening to me, that can be an act of worship to God as well. When we have that attitude to say, hey, I'm going to tune in with Children's Church Live. I'm going to want to learn about you, God. I'm going to have fun with you, God. I'm going to have fun with the kids team. I want that to be my worship to you as well. And we can carry on in our week thinking about which company is the best company. The company that might take us away from God, or the company that helps us stay close to God. I'm going to pray, and then we're going to end it. Emma's back in the room, and she doesn't look so cold anymore. Are we still friends, Emma? See, I told you. I might have to say sorry.